Are you interested in doing a professional homeschool evaluation but feel uneasy about having someone look at your students' work? Do you have questions about the process and how everything comes together? Get our guide to stress-free homeschool evaluation techniques with our expert guidance. Don't miss out on this helpful information. Go to today's show notes for a copy of our ultimate guide to stress-free professional homeschool evaluations.
Welcome to the Essence of Homeschooling podcast, brought to you by the umbrella school, Start Academy. We empower and equip you to cultivate the authentic homeschool lifestyle where freedom and relationships rule.
Hey, friend, I'm glad that you're here today. We're going to talk about record keeping and everything that you should keep for your homeschool as you're nearing the end of the homeschool, so you know what to have on file and know what to not keep, so you don't have to keep things that aren't needed and clutter up your files. We're going to go through quite a few things to help you keep things in order and hopefully simplify it for you and clear up any confusion so that you can get your stuff put together and move on to summer break and have a great time with less stress. The basic and first things that are the easiest and very important items to keep track of are your attendance records. It's really critical that you keep an up-to-date attendance record that's accurate for your homeschool. If you are a member of Start Academy, we don't require that you turn that into us, but we do require that you keep an up-to-date attendance log all throughout the year that is always up to date. We would only ask for you to turn that in if we were audited, and then we would notify you, and then you would have 3 business days to turn it into us so that we could be in compliance with that audit. You do have the option, if you're enrolled with us, if you just want us to keep your records for you so you always know that there's a backup waiting for you should you want to access it. That is a benefit included in your enrollment with us, that you can do that anytime. So that's available for you. So we do have a record repository. If you're not enrolled with our umbrella school, we can still house your tests and attendance records. Should you like us to do that, just go to our website. Regardless of whether or not you are enrolled in an umbrella school, you do want to have the records on file and keep those. For everything that we talk about tonight, it's recommended that you keep them on file just like your taxes for 7 years. That way, if you ever needed evidence for something, that you have that solid rolling file, and then after 7 years you can get rid of it, or you can keep it for nostalgia purposes. Number 1 is attendance, and then any test or evaluation results. If you did standardized tests, or if you did a professional evaluation, or if you're enrolled with us and do a parent evaluation, you want to keep those results. And then any vaccine records or an exemption letter if you do not vaccinate. Depending on your state laws, that might be a form that you have to fill out, or you might be able to just write your own letter. The next thing we want to look at is work samples. Kim, since you're the expert on work samples, will you please talk to us about this?
Yes, you honestly don't have to keep a lot. Some people, I find, keep stacks and workbooks and things like that. And honestly, you really don't have to do that. Whether or not you choose to do an evaluation, versus testing, regardless, at least 3 to 5 work samples from at least 2 separate subject areas is basically your bare minimum. In elementary, we like to focus on math and language arts. It can be any of the areas, writing is terrific. Obviously, grammar, spelling, anything like that is in there as well. Really anything that shows your child's progress over the course of the year. And again, that's just in case you need to come back and do an evaluation, or just like Colleen said, for nostalgia purposes. The rest of it, you really don't have to keep everything. In fact, when I was working in the classroom, my administrator said to me, there's a special spot for most of these papers. I said, where's that? And she said, there's a special little file right next to your desk, and it's round and it's on the floor. And I was like, file 13. In other words, don't worry about keeping every single thing. Keep the things that are your child's best work or things that they're especially proud of. And also remember, you can keep a digital sample. Take a picture of something, especially if it's a project, a report that's on a big stand or a poster or something. Take a picture of it and tuck that away in your scrapbook or your notebook or anything like that. Does not have to be a lot, just 3 to 5 samples in at least 2 different subject areas, preferably math and language arts.
If you want to keep a digital file, you can do videos. Like if they have a project that they're talking about and explaining about, or giving a speech or a presentation, that's a good way to do it. You can do that through whatever you want to, Dropbox, Google Docs, whatever you want to do that. Our enrolled families do get a certain number of work samples that they can submit and store with us. They vary depending on your enrollment package, but that's another way that you can store that so that we hold that for you should you want access for that in the future. What are some things that if somebody's type A and they want to really make sure that everything's covered and they have lots of records for nostalgia purposes, what are some other suggestions of things to keep?
It's a good idea to have just maybe a short list, and it doesn't have to be perfect, of curriculum that you used in general, websites you might have used, especially if it's for classes, any materials, things like that. Book lists are great, especially in Florida. We're required to do that in Florida. But also, again, for nostalgia or for high schoolers, it's important to keep a book list, a list of your field trips or activities. That's great to document with photos. And then more on a personal level, maybe you want to sit down with your kids and kind of reflect over the past year and maybe set some goals for what you want to work on in the following year. And that might be academically, it might be emotionally, spiritually, socially, whatever that may be. And maybe jot those things down and just be thinking about it over the summer. And then the last thing is possibly receipts. Now, we can't really write anything off as homeschoolers, but it's good to keep receipts in case maybe you do need to return some curriculum or, I don't know, have verification for anything, any purposes. Nice to keep your receipts.
People who are enrolled with Start Academy have access to their parent evaluation that walks them through all those things that you were just talking about. Michelle, you've done the parent evaluation with Start because you've been a member for a while. Can you share about that and how you use that at year end and what your family did with that?
The parent evaluation is a great tool. I loved it because it walks you through every single subject, and it had what were the obstacles, what were the struggles, but what were the things to celebrate as well. So things like with one of my kids one time, we finally completed the hurdle of long division. And so to be able to remember to celebrate is really important. And at the same time, I felt like it worked as a way to plan for the next year because it reminded me of what went well, but also what didn't and what I need to focus on for the following year. Again, that parent evaluation walks you through each subject, math, language arts, and breaks language arts up with grammar, mechanics, as well as the reading, comprehension, grammar, mechanics, and language. So that helped a lot to see where the strengths are for each of your kids. But that's where you can include your book list. And that's where you can include the goals that you've accomplished or that you are still setting forth for yourself. So then there was science, history, and various electives that you would do. We each have different years where some years we don't get to history, and that's okay. It just helps us understand which subjects we want to be making sure we do hit throughout our homeschool journey with our kid. But then also your book list that you've read for language arts may actually overlap with history, and you may have been teaching history and you didn't realize it. So these are good helps, and those field trips that you take count for history or for science. So it's a super helpful tool, I think. And it's easy. You can print it out if you want, or you can fill it out online and it submits that way.
A cool thing about that now is that we're giving families the option to complete it and then submit it to Kim so that she can look over it and then give an official statement of progress and certify those results. So that I think it's the best combination of evaluations that you can possibly do for your kids. Good to do it at the end of the year when you're thinking about what went well. So because you're going to forget by the time August comes around and you've gotten through summer and the memories fade about what is good and what is bad. So I think that's a good time to do it. Are you looking for a supportive community to walk with you through your homeschooling journey? Look no further. Start Academy is your go-to umbrella school for fulfilling legal reporting requirements in Colorado. But what if you don't live in Colorado? We still serve you through our support tools and services. At Start Academy, we're not just another institution. We're your partners in education, providing comprehensive support services designed to empower, encourage, and equip you to be the best homeschool parent that your children deserve. Teacher and student IDs, parent and professional evaluations, attendance logs, record-keeping services, DIY high school transcripts, or our official homeschool high school transcript service produces personalized transcripts that highlight your students' unique accomplishments. High school diplomas celebrate your family's achievement when you successfully complete the adventure. Additionally, our experienced homeschool coaches provide one-on-one support throughout your journey. Custom tailor your homeschool support system by selecting one of our 3 enrollment packages based on your family's needs. This way, you can get exactly what you need to make the most of your homeschooling experience. We come alongside you in the way you want to be supported, whether that's the bare minimum or holding your hand each step of the way. The Umbrella School's Stateros Academy provides what you want the way you want it. So why wait? Enroll with Stateros Academy today and unlock a world of possibilities for your homeschooling journey. Go to theumbrellaschool.com to learn more and sign up. We can't wait to serve your family.
And one idea I have, and Kim's mentioned it before, of different ways to keep it as far as scrapbook style or in a notebook or binder, a folder. I keep my kids' end of year stuff in a 3-ring binder, and I keep any math tests they've taken, any science tests that they have taken, or any of the language arts grammar tests that they have taken, because those are super important to at least have on hand. Hopefully you'll be able to homeschool throughout your career with your kids, throughout their growing up, but at the same time, we know that there are times where they have to be put back in school. And so to be able to have proof of what they have done also helps that to be a seamless process to go back to school. And I don't know if we actually mentioned the notice of intent. If you're
Oh, we
filed
didn't.
in Colorado under the umbrella school, you don't need to file a notice of intent with the schools. However, in other states, it's absolutely required. That's how they do it. So make sure you know the laws per state and what you need. But with our umbrella school in Colorado, you don't need a notice of intent. And if you have one, make sure you keep a record of that. When I was in Virginia, it was really important that I had that in a binder readily accessible so that I could also double check what was required at the end of the year by looking at the district's response back.
Yeah, that's important. Whatever you do in your state to homeschool legally, print that out and have evidence of it so that you have that on hand in your file for each year. So with an umbrella school, you're going to get a confirmation of enrollment letter. Keep that, because if you have kids that want to play sports in college, then they're going to have that proof, because the NCAA has very specific rules around what homeschoolers have to provide. And one of that is showing documented evidence of legally homeschooling all 4 years. So if you, whatever it is, if you have to do an affidavit, if you have to do a notice of intent, if you have to get approval from the local superintendent, keep a copy of what you submit and then keep a copy of their response. If you physically mail in something, send it certified mail, and then keep that certification that USPS provides showing that it's been delivered, and keep that in your file. And then if you send an email for a notice of intent, keep the email that shows the time and date stamp and the address that you sent it to, so you have that notification printed out. That's very important to keep on hand. Thank you for covering that. I should have covered that at the beginning. In addition to keeping your proof of legally homeschooling, however you do that, you want to keep whatever standardized test and evaluation results that you're legally required by law. So look at your state's laws and make sure that you understand what you have to do. Basically, if the law tells you that you have to do something, then keep evidence that you did it. That's your rule of thumb. That's the thing that you keep to make sure that you're covered. I want to get into high school because you want to do a little bit more than what is minimally required, just because it will help you as you build your student's transcript. And that's a really big deal. The transcript is hands down the most important document that you are going to make for your student. It's far more important than a diploma. A diploma is just a fun celebration, but the transcript is the bones. It's all the credibility of everything that your family has worked hard for. So it's important that you keep specific things each year for your own benefit as you're building out that transcript. So I'm going to have Stacy talk about that, because she's our high school specialist and she's going to be able to give us the very best information on this. What do you recommend, Stacy?
Well, for high school, you definitely want to keep more detailed records than you did in elementary and middle school, including things that will eventually go on the transcript. So if you want to think about dividing up each year, using a binder is a good idea, or if you want to use a file cabinet, if you want to use a Dropbox, anything to divide it up in your mind. So when you go back to do the transcript, you can say, this is what we did in ninth, this is what we did in 10th, on and on. So you should keep the name of every curriculum, the publisher, and a synopsis from the website or from the book, something that shows what that curriculum covers. If they publish a scope and sequence, if they have grading sheets, if they say this curriculum is worth 1 credit, let's say literature, or some curriculums say 1 credit literature and 1 credit writing if you do all the writing assignments in the book. Some math curriculum says this is maybe 1 credit algebra, half credit geometry. So each of the publishers have different published credits for the curriculum. So when you choose that curriculum, you can go ahead and just input that right into your course descriptions on the transcripts. So in addition to the actual class classes, you'll of course want to keep how you graded, whether that is a rubric or a grading sheet from the publisher, however you decide to grade for that class. Definitely keep that. It's a good idea to have a reading list of every book that the child read, divided up by grade, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. It's not necessary, but it's helpful to keep any outside paperwork from possibly a co-op or any homeschool class that your child has taken, especially if you're going to use it on the transcript later. You'll want to keep a list of their extracurricular activities, volunteer work, or any work experience outside the home that they do, because you can put that right on the transcript. And again, make sure you note what year it was done, and if possible, how many hours a week, a month, over the course of the year, and then what they did at that volunteer or work experience or in that extracurricular. If your student does any CLEP tests or any dual enrollment, you want to make sure you keep the CLEP scores, dual enrollment transcripts, as well as work from those dual enrollment classes. And then also don't forget about testing. If your student takes the PSAT, SAT, ACT, CLT, or any other standardized test out there, you'll want to keep those scores as well. So those are the big things that will eventually make up the transcript. And you can do the transcript as you go. Once you've finished 9th grade, you can do the 9th grade transcript, finish 10th, do the 10th grade transcript, or you could save up, do a couple years at a time. You could save up all the information, do everything in 12th grade at the end. It really is dependent on what works best for your family. I would just give one word of caution though, that if you do decide you want to save it up and do it at the end in 12th grade, really make sure you take good notes from 9th, 10th, and 11th. Because at the time we think we're never going to forget what they did and how much work and what was their favorite book and what they learned. But really we do, especially when it's 12th grade and you're trying to look back on 9th grade and you can't remember what was the name of that English curriculum again, or what was that history we did. So really take good notes if you're going to wait to do the transcript.
That's really great information and totally insightful for what helps make the good transcript. Kim, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I really don't. I'm just sitting here nodding because Stacy's just hitting every single thing I can think of as well, and then some. So those are all great things to hang on to.
Yeah, really good.
I would add one more thing. If your child wins any awards during high school, you can also save those to put them on the transcript. If they enter a writing contest, or if it's a sports award, speech and debate, at anything, any of those activities that they might get an award for, you could put directly on the transcript.
One thing I was taught in my training for the transcripts was for work study or for life skills too, to not let them do more than 2 credits for either of those things, just because you don't want to load up your transcript with stuff like that. Even anything that's super heavy, like they're having like tons and tons of credits in any one particular area, it's almost better at some point to set them aside and put them on the resume.
Is there anything else that we should be covering that we have forgotten about which records to keep?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
It's really not as complicated as it seems to be. So hopefully with all that information, you can take it and you can get your records together for the end of the year, and then you can kick your feet up and relax. You checked all your boxes. We'll provide a checklist for you, and enjoy your summer. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Colleen.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. Be sure to check out today's show notes for all applicable links and additional resources. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Your support helps us continue to bring you great content. Until next time, happy homeschooling.